You pick it up every single morning and every night before bed. You put it in your mouth without even thinking about it. It's such a normal part of life that you probably can't even remember a time before you used it. But stop for a second and ask yourself this question. Who invented the toothbrush? And what did people do to keep their teeth clean before it existed? Believe it or not, the toothbrush has one of the strangest, most fascinating invention stories in all of human history. It's a journey that takes us from ancient civilizations to prison cells, from animal hair to nylon bristles, and eventually to the high-tech devices we use today. By the end of this story, you'll never look at your toothbrush the same way again. Let's go back thousands of years, long before the sleek plastic brushes we know today. Imagine living in ancient Mesopotamia or Egypt. Food wasn't processed or polished the way it is today. Bread often contained sand and grit because grinding flour was a rough process. Every bite slowly wore down your teeth, leaving people with painful mouths and early tooth loss. Cavities and infections were common, and there were no dentists with fancy tools to save you. Yet humans have always cared about their teeth. The earliest solution wasn't really a brush at all. It was something called a chew stick. These were small twigs that people chewed until the end frayed into a rough brush. They would then rub this across their teeth to scrape away food. Believe it or not, we have evidence of chew sticks being used more than 5,000 years ago. That means people have been worrying about clean teeth for as long as they've been farming, building cities, and writing language. Fast forward to China in the Tang Dynasty, around the year 619. Here we find what many historians consider the first true toothbrush. Instead of just chewing on sticks, the Chinese created a handle made of bamboo or bone and tied coarse hairs from the neck of a wild Siberian boar to the end. Suddenly, humans had something much closer to the tool we use today. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Imagine brushing your teeth with stiff, prickly boar hair. It did the job, but it was far from comfortable. Still, it was revolutionary for its time. Travelers brought this idea from China to Europe by the 1600s, where people were fascinated but not entirely impressed. Europeans complained that boar bristles were too harsh on their gums, so they experimented with softer options like horsehair or even feathers. Can you picture brushing your teeth with a feather? It might sound strange, but for centuries, these were the best tools people had. Now let's jump to England in the year 1770, because this is where the modern toothbrush truly begins. The hero of this story is not a wealthy inventor or a scientist in a laboratory. It's a prisoner. His name was William Addis. While locked up in jail, Addis noticed that people were still cleaning their teeth with rags covered in soot or salt. It was messy, ineffective, and downright unpleasant. Addis thought there had to be a better way. Legend has it that he saved a small bone from one of his meals, carved it into a handle, drilled tiny holes into one end, and gathered bristles from a broom. He tied the bristles into the bone, and just like that, he created a primitive but effective toothbrush. When Addis was released from prison, he didn't let the idea go to waste. He began producing toothbrushes in large numbers and selling them to the public. By 1780, he had built a business, and amazingly, that business still exists today under the name Wisdom Toothbrushes. So the next time you brush your teeth, remember, the modern toothbrush industry started because one man in a prison cell had an idea and the determination to make it real. As the toothbrush spread, more innovations followed. For centuries, people used brushes with animal hair. But animal bristles came with problems. They held bacteria, they wore down quickly, and they weren't always pleasant to use. Everything changed in 1938 when DuPont introduced nylon bristles. Suddenly, toothbrushes were cleaner, softer, and more durable. This single change transformed oral hygiene. For the first time, people had access to a truly effective, safe, and affordable tool that could be mass-produced. And just as important, during World War II, soldiers were required to brush their teeth daily as part of military hygiene. When they came home after the war, they kept the habit, and so did their families. Daily toothbrushing went from being something only a few people did to a global expectation. In just a few decades, the toothbrush became as essential as eating 3 meals a day. Of course, innovation didn't stop there. In the 1950s and 60s, electric toothbrushes entered the scene. At first, they seemed like luxury gadgets, But over time, they became more affordable and widely used. They made brushing easier for people with limited mobility and offered a sense of futuristic convenience. By the 21st century, technology went even further. Today, we have smart toothbrushes with sensors and Bluetooth that connect to your phone, tracking how well you brush each tooth and giving you feedback like a digital dentist in your pocket. Think about that journey. From a frayed stick chewed thousands of years ago to an AI-powered toothbrush that can literally coach you on your brushing technique. It's an incredible example of human innovation and our never-ending quest to improve even the simplest parts of life. Now let's pause for a moment and explore some surprising facts about the toothbrush. Did you know the average person spends about 38 entire days of their life brushing their teeth? That's more than a month of nonstop brushing. In Japan, brushing after lunch is so important that schools actually schedule brushing breaks during the day. In 2003, when researchers asked people to rank the most important inventions in history, the toothbrush came out on top. It beat out the car, the personal computer, and even the mobile phone. That's right. More people said they couldn't live without their toothbrush than their cell phone. And here's another fun one. Before toilet paper was invented, toothbrushes already existed. Let that sink in for a second. When you think about it, the toothbrush is a silent hero of human health. Without it, dentistry as we know it wouldn't exist. Oral hygiene would be a nightmare. Gum disease, cavities, and infections would be widespread. Life expectancy in many places would have been much lower. All of that risk reduced dramatically because of one simple invention. The toothbrush doesn't get the same glory as the light bulb, the airplane, or the smartphone, but its impact is just as profound. It's the perfect example of how a tiny, ordinary tool can completely change the course of history. And now that you know the real story, here's the question I want to leave you with. What other everyday object are you curious about? The pen you write with? The toilet paper you can't live without? Or maybe the Wi-Fi that keeps you connected every second of the day? Drop your suggestion in the comments, because your idea might be the next invention we uncover on this channel. If you enjoyed this journey into the surprising history of the toothbrush, make sure to subscribe to Behind the Invention for more fascinating stories about the objects hiding in plain sight all around us. Because every product has a secret history, and every history deserves to be told.